Ladies and gentlemen, today we're diving into a powerful subject, one that has the potential to transform not only the way you view toxic relationships, but also the way you approach love, healing, and personal growth. We've all encountered toxic people in our lives, whether it's a family member, a colleague, or a close friend, and the impact of their negativity can leave us feeling drained, frustrated, and helpless. But here's the truth. You don't have to let their toxicity dictate your happiness or your peace of mind. You have the power to turn toxic people into love, to shift the energy of these relationships, and to transform them from sources of pain to opportunities for growth. And it all starts with one thing: understanding. Understanding toxicity is the first step in this journey. Toxic behavior isn't something that happens in a vacuum. It stems from deep-seated fears, insecurities, and unresolved emotional wounds. When we understand this, we begin to see toxic behavior not as an attack on us, but as a reflection of someone else's internal struggle. This shift in perspective is crucial because it allows us to detach from the negativity that others project and instead respond with compassion, empathy, and love. But let's be real, that's not always easy. It's human nature to want to defend ourselves when we feel attacked. We often want to retaliate, to stand our ground, to fight fire with fire. Yet, as tempting as that may be, it only perpetuates the cycle of negativity. Responding with anger or frustration may feel good in the moment, but it never leads to real resolution. If we want to break free from this cycle, we must choose a different path, one that is rooted in understanding, patience, and love. Patience, as difficult as it may seem in the face of toxicity, is a form of love. It's about holding space for the other person's pain without allowing it to take over your own peace. It's about not matching their anger or their bitterness, but rather choosing to remain calm, grounded, and loving. In doing so, you invite them to reflect on their own behavior and perhaps see things from a different perspective. But this doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment or allowing toxic behavior to go unchecked. Boundaries are just as important as patience in this process. They're not walls. They're protective lines that help you preserve your emotional well-being while still showing love and compassion. Setting boundaries is an act of self-love. It's about saying, I respect myself enough to not tolerate behavior that harms me. It's not about being selfish. It's about protecting your peace so that you can continue to offer love without losing yourself in the process. And when you practice self-love, you create an environment where love can flourish. You become a living example of what it means to treat yourself with kindness and respect, which, in turn, teaches others how to treat you. But it doesn't end there. The power of forgiveness is essential in this journey. Forgiveness is often misunderstood as excusing someone's behavior or forgetting the harm they've caused. But true forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about you. It's about releasing the hold that resentment and anger have over your heart. It's about choosing to let go of the past so that you can move forward with peace. Forgiveness frees you from the emotional chains that toxic people have unknowingly placed on you, and it allows you to reclaim your power. As we move through this video, we'll explore each of these concepts in greater detail, understanding the root causes of toxic behavior, practicing compassion and empathy, setting healthy boundaries, and ultimately, embracing forgiveness. The journey won't always be easy, and it won't happen overnight. But I promise you this: when you choose love over anger, patience over retaliation, and forgiveness over bitterness, you will create a life filled with peace, freedom, and deeper connections with others. This isn't just about changing toxic relationships. It's about changing your life. How to turn toxic people into love. Understanding toxicity and the power of love. Toxic people can appear in all areas of our lives. Family, friends, co-workers, even strangers. Their presence can feel draining, their words cutting, and their actions harmful. But before we label someone as toxic, it's important to understand what toxicity truly is. Toxic behavior is not always intentional. It often comes from deep-rooted pain, insecurities, and unresolved trauma. Toxicity is born out of fear, fear of vulnerability, fear of failure, and fear of being unloved. These are people who haven't learned how to process their emotions healthily and instead project their hurt onto others. When dealing with toxic people, our first reaction is often defense or even anger. We might feel justified in retaliating, in fighting back, or in putting up walls. But this is where we have to pause and ask ourselves, Do we want to continue the cycle of negativity, or do we want to rise above it? The first step in turning toxic people into love is understanding that their behavior is not about you, it's about them. They may lash out because they're hurting, or they may use manipulation and guilt as a defense mechanism. But remember, their toxic behavior reflects their struggles and unhealed wounds, not your worth. You are not responsible for their pain, but you do have the power to change how you respond to it. When you encounter toxic behavior, it's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of emotions they bring. It's natural to want to defend yourself, to argue, or even to shut down emotionally, but reacting in the same toxic manner only perpetuates the problem. You don't break the cycle by mirroring their behavior, you break it by choosing a different path. And the next step is to practice patience. Patience is a form of love. It's about understanding that healing doesn't happen overnight. And neither does transformation. Toxic people can't change in an instant, but when you remain calm and composed, despite their outbursts or hurtful actions, you're offering them something they may have never experienced: true peace. Instead of matching their anger or frustration, you have the power to remain grounded, to refuse to engage in a fight that only drains both of you. Your calmness can be a silent invitation for them to settle down and reconsider their actions. But patience doesn't mean allowing toxic behavior to continue unchecked. This brings us to another crucial point: setting boundaries. Boundaries are essential for your emotional well-being and are also a powerful way of showing love, both for yourself and for the other person. When you set a boundary, you're communicating that while you care about them, you will not tolerate disrespect. Boundaries are not walls, they are lines in the sand that protect your peace and preserve your energy. When you choose love in the face of toxicity, it's also important to remember that love is not about fixing someone else's problems. You can't force someone to heal, and you can't make them see the world differently. What you can do is lead by example. You can show them what it means to love yourself, to treat others with kindness, and to respect boundaries. Sometimes, people don't know how to love because they've never been taught. Your actions can be a silent lesson that love doesn't need to be toxic to be powerful. Toxicity is often born out of neglect or rejection. By showing love, we may open a door for healing, not because we're trying to fix them, but because love has the power to soften hardened hearts. You can be the person who shows them there's a better way to live, a way that values peace, respect, and understanding. You don't need to engage in their drama. You don't need to mirror their negativity. Instead, choose to be a living example of how to handle conflict with grace, how to deal with pain with compassion, and how to love without conditions. The power of compassion and empathy. Now that we've established the importance of understanding toxic behavior and setting boundaries, let's delve into the next crucial element in turning toxic people into love: compassion and empathy. These two qualities are the foundation upon which healing can begin, both for you and the toxic person in your life. It's natural to feel resentment or anger towards someone who has hurt you or drained your energy. But if we allow those negative emotions to dictate how we interact with them, we become just as toxic. Compassion and empathy are what allow us to rise above our immediate emotional reactions and understand the deeper issues at play. When we show compassion, we're choosing to see the person behind the toxic behavior. We're choosing to look past their actions and recognize their humanity. This shift in perspective is one of the most powerful tools you have in transforming toxic relationships. Compassion is often misunderstood. It doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment or excusing harmful actions. It means understanding that the person in front of you is suffering in some way, whether they realize it or not. Toxic people often behave in harmful ways because they're struggling with unresolved pain, past traumas, or deep insecurities. Compassion asks you to see that pain not as an excuse for their actions, but as a reason behind them. When you look at their behavior from the standpoint, you may find it easier to respond with kindness instead of retaliation. You start to respond with empathy instead of judgment. Empathy, on the other hand, is the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes. It's about understanding their feelings, even if you don't agree with their actions. Empathy allows you to feel the weight of their struggles without taking them on yourself. It's not about fixing them or solving their problems. It's about being present with them in their pain without absorbing it. Empathy offers an emotional bridge, helping you connect with someone who might otherwise seem distant or unreachable. But let's be clear, empathy doesn't mean sacrificing your peace. It doesn't mean allowing someone to treat you poorly in the name of understanding. You can be compassionate and empathetic while still maintaining your boundaries. In fact, empathy makes it even more crucial to stand firm on your boundaries, because you now understand the deeper need behind their behavior. You see that they're acting out of fear or unresolved hurt, and while that's valid, it doesn't give them the right to hurt you in the process. When you respond with compassion and empathy, you begin to shift the energy of the interaction. It's like you're offering them a lifeline, a way out of their toxic behavior. Often, toxic people are so used to pushing others away that they never experience true connection. They may react defensively at first because it's unfamiliar, but over time, your consistent compassion will make them pause and reflect. Your empathy may be the only form of love they've ever received, and it may be what helps them heal. It's also important to recognize that this journey won't be easy or quick. You may face resistance, anger, or even manipulation. Toxic people often push back against love because they don't know how to receive it. They may have built walls around their hearts, making it difficult for anyone to get through. But here's the key. Love, when given consistently and with intention, can eventually break down those walls. It might take time, and it might require patience, but the love you show them is a force that cannot be easily dismissed. One of the most transformative aspects of compassion and empathy is that they help you stop personalizing the toxic behavior. When you approach toxic people with an understanding that their actions come from their pain, you can detach emotionally from their outbursts or negativity. You no longer take their words or actions personally, and that creates a shield of emotional protection. You are no longer a victim of their behavior, you are a witness to their struggle. By embracing compassion and empathy, you begin to create a space where healing can happen, not only for you, but also for the toxic person. Your love can help them see that there's a better way to live, one rooted in kindness, understanding, and mutual respect. Remember, compassion is the gateway to transformation, and while it's easy to give up on someone who has hurt you repeatedly, showing them empathy is what may ultimately turn the tide in your relationship. Love isn't just about what you receive. It's about what you're willing to give, even when it's hard, leading with boundaries and self-love. In the first two parts, we explored the importance of understanding toxic behavior and cultivating compassion and empathy. Now, let's dive into a crucial aspect of transforming toxic relationships: boundaries and self-love. This is the part where you take control of your emotional health and begin to lead by example. It's not enough to simply respond with kindness and understanding. You must also protect yourself from harm. Boundaries are your shield. They help preserve your well-being while still allowing you to engage with the toxic person in a way that promotes healing. Understanding boundaries. A boundary is a personal limit that you set to protect yourself, emotionally, mentally, and physically. It's about determining what behaviors you will and will not tolerate. Setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish or unkind. It's an act of self-respect. Boundaries are not walls that keep people out. Rather, they are a way to ensure that relationships remain healthy and that you are treated with the dignity you deserve. Toxic people often have no regard for boundaries, either because they are unaware of them or because they feel entitled to cross them. They may push you to your limits, test your patience, or manipulate your emotions. But here's the truth. You are not obligated to tolerate mistreatment in the name of love. Boundaries empower you to protect your energy while still offering love in a way that is healthy for both parties. When you set boundaries with toxic people, you communicate that you are willing to show compassion, but you are not willing to sacrifice your peace. This is a powerful message that sets the tone for your interactions moving forward. It lets the other person know that you are serious about maintaining a respectful relationship. The role of self-love. Now, setting boundaries is only possible when you have a deep sense of self-love. Self-love isn't just about treating yourself with kindness. It's about recognizing your worth and not settling for anything less than you deserve. When you love yourself, you create an inner strength that allows you to stand firm in your boundaries and not feel guilty for doing so. Self-love is the foundation upon which all other healthy relationships are built. Toxic people often thrive on your lack of self-love because they can manipulate your emotions, guilt-trip you, or make you doubt your worth. But when you truly love yourself, their toxic behavior loses its power over you. Self-love helps you understand that your value isn't dependent on anyone else's approval or actions. It allows you to stand confidently in your truth, no matter how difficult the relationship may be. To truly transform toxic relationships, you must lead with self-love. This means prioritizing your emotional well-being, practicing self-care, and understanding that you are worthy of respect. When you fill yourself with love and acceptance, you are no longer in a position where you need validation from others, especially from toxic people. Self-love helps you see that your happiness is not contingent on the approval of others. In fact, when you lead with love and self-respect, something incredible happens. Your energy begins to shift. People, especially toxic ones, will start to notice the change in you. They'll sense that you are no longer someone they can manipulate or take advantage of. Instead, they'll begin to respect you more, simply because you respect yourself. Your energy becomes a mirror. When you treat yourself with love, others will be more likely to reflect that same love back to you. But self-love also means being honest with yourself. It means being clear about what is healthy for you and what isn't. Sometimes, that might mean walking away from a relationship that has become too toxic to repair, no matter how much love and compassion you show. Self-love requires you to acknowledge when a relationship is no longer serving you, and to have the courage to let go. You can't heal anyone else if you're continuously allowing yourself to be drained. The courage to set boundaries. Setting boundaries with toxic people requires courage, especially if you're not used to standing up for yourself. But remember, boundaries are not about control. They are about mutual respect. When you set a boundary with a toxic person, you are saying, I value myself and I am not willing to accept behavior that harms me. This is an empowering statement that sets the stage for healthier interactions moving forward. At the end of the day, transforming toxic relationships starts with you. It begins with you understanding your worth, practicing self-love, and setting the necessary boundaries to protect your peace. Toxic people may not change overnight, but your shift in behavior, energy, and attitude will begin to make a difference. The love and respect you show yourself will create a ripple effect that encourages change in others. Embracing the power of forgiveness and moving forward. In the previous parts of this video, we've explored how understanding toxic behavior, practicing empathy, and setting boundaries are crucial steps in transforming these relationships. Now, we're going to look at the final key ingredient: forgiveness. Forgiveness is often misunderstood, and many people believe it's about excusing or forgetting the wrongs that others have done. But true forgiveness is a powerful act of freedom for yourself. It's about letting go of the anger, bitterness, and resentment that can hold you hostage. The power of forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean condoning toxic behavior or allowing people to continue mistreating you. It's not about saying what you did was okay. It's about releasing the emotional hold that toxic individuals and their actions have on your life. Forgiveness is for you, not for them. It's a way of reclaiming your peace and choosing to move forward, unburdened by the weight of past hurts. When you forgive, you are making the decision to free yourself from the cycle of negativity and pain that toxic people may have caused. Holding on to grudges and resentment only keeps you tied to the toxic behavior. It perpetuates the negative feelings and gives the other person power over your emotions, even if they don't realize it. Forgiveness allows you to shift from being a victim of their actions to becoming the victor of your own emotional life. It's about taking back control of your peace and choosing not to let anyone else disturb it. Forgiveness is a journey, not a destination. So forgiveness is not always easy. It's a process, and it often takes time. When you've been hurt or mistreated by someone, it's normal to feel anger or resentment. It's okay to acknowledge those emotions, but don't let them consume you. Forgiveness doesn't happen overnight. It requires patience and a commitment to your own emotional well-being. Think of forgiveness as a journey, one where each day you make a conscious choice to release the negative emotions that no longer serve you. Sometimes forgiveness means reminding yourself that you deserve peace and happiness, despite the wrongs others have done. As you forgive, you'll find that you feel lighter and more free. It's like shedding an emotional weight that has been holding you down for far too long. The role of compassion in forgiveness. The act of forgiveness is deeply intertwined with compassion. Compassion isn't about excusing someone's harmful actions. It's about understanding that they may be acting out of their own pain, fear, or insecurity. Toxic people often hurt others because they haven't healed from their own wounds. When you forgive, you choose to acknowledge that their actions are a reflection of their own struggles, not your worth. You don't have to condone their behavior, but you can show compassion by choosing to move forward without carrying the burden of anger. Compassion allows you to let go of the need for revenge or retribution, and instead focus on healing your own heart. By forgiving, you break free from the cycle of toxic emotions and take back your power. Moving forward with love. Forgiveness is not just about letting go of the past, it's also about creating space for a better future. When you forgive toxic people, you are no longer bound by their negativity and you free yourself to embrace healthier, more fulfilling relationships. This doesn't mean you have to continue interacting with them in the same way. Sometimes, the healthiest form of forgiveness is walking away from someone who consistently brings negativity into your life. But by choosing forgiveness, you release yourself from the grip of bitterness. You allow your heart to heal, and you open up the possibility for new, positive connections. Forgiveness allows you to move forward, unencumbered by the past, and with the space to cultivate love, peace, and growth in your own life. It's also important to remember that forgiveness doesn't mean you forget the lessons learned from toxic relationships. It simply means you've learned from them and are choosing to evolve, rather than remain stuck in resentment. Forgiveness is a sign of strength, not weakness. It takes strength to release pain, to choose peace over conflict, and to embrace love over bitterness. Letting go of toxic people. Well, ultimately turning toxic people into love doesn't mean that you have to continue allowing them to occupy space in your life. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let go. This may sound counterintuitive, but letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you are choosing to love yourself more. If a relationship is consistently harmful and toxic, it's okay to walk away. True love begins with the love you have for yourself, and sometimes that means creating distance from those who don't support or nurture your growth. By letting go, you make room for relationships that uplift you, respect your boundaries, and contribute positively to your life. Turning toxic people into love is a process that requires compassion, self-love, boundaries, and ultimately forgiveness. It's about taking control of your emotional health and choosing peace over pain. By understanding toxic behavior, practicing empathy, setting clear boundaries, and embracing forgiveness, you have the power to transform your relationships. Remember, you cannot control how others behave, but you can control how you respond. Your love for yourself will be the foundation that transforms toxic interactions into opportunities for growth and healing. And when you begin to lead with love, you will attract more love into your life, starting with the love you give to yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap up this powerful journey, I want you to take a deep breath and recognize something vital. You have so much more power than you realize. The power not to control others, not to fix them, but to transform your own responses to the challenges they bring. Turning toxic people into love doesn't mean you turn a blind eye to pain or disrespect. It means you rise above it. You move with wisdom, compassion, and unwavering self-respect. You now understand that toxic behavior is often rooted in personal wounds, emotional baggage, and fear. That awareness alone is transformative. It allows you to stop reacting and start responding with patience, with empathy, and most importantly, with clarity. You're no longer tied to their storm. You become the calm, the steady presence that refuses to be shaken by chaos. That is power, that is strength. Throughout this message, we've explored the key steps in this transformation: understanding toxicity, choosing compassion, establishing firm boundaries, and practicing forgiveness. Each one of these principles works together like the parts of a strong foundation. Understanding helps you stop personalizing toxic actions. Compassion lets you see the wounded soul behind the hurtful words. Boundaries protect your peace without cutting off your love. And forgiveness? Forgiveness frees you, not them, from the weight of bitterness that tries to chain your heart. Let's be honest, this journey isn't glamorous. It requires discipline. It asks you to grow when it would be easier to walk away. It challenges you to be soft in a world that constantly tells you to be hard. But here's what's incredible. The more you choose love in the face of negativity, the more you change the environment around you. You show others, especially the toxic ones, that a different way is possible. You're like a path that they may not even know exists. Remember this: choosing love doesn't mean choosing pain. You're not a doormat, and you're not responsible for healing someone else's wounds. Your responsibility is to love yourself enough to act from peace, not from pride. To walk away when needed, but never with bitterness. To forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you do. And sometimes love means letting go. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for them and for yourself is to step away and release them into their own journey. Not with hate, not with resentment, but with the quiet confidence that you did your part, and now it's time to protect your light. So, I leave you with this. You don't overcome toxicity by becoming toxic. You overcome it by becoming more rooted in who you are. Stand firm in your values. Speak with love. Act with grace. Set boundaries with confidence. And walk away when your peace is under attack. Because at the end of the day, your life is too precious, your purpose too great, and your spirit too sacred to be trapped in cycles of pain. You were made for more. And when you choose love over toxicity, you step into the life you were always meant to live. Let love lead, always. And let your light be too bright to be dimmed by anyone. Are you ready to be the change the world needs? Then let's begin.